and then all we need to do is to go down, and there's attach, and there's a little dialog next to it, and do attach list. It'll open up and show us a list of all our objects, highlight all of them, hit attach, and now this is one solid object. So that's pretty simple, pretty easy to do. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to add the bones to actually rig this up. So I'm going to go and create system bone IK chain, and I'm going to maximize the top. Oh, sorry. Maximize the top. Okay, let's not do that then. Let's maximize the top viewport. And there we go, zoom extends. Okay, so now I'm ready. So left click will add the bone, and each time I do it, I'll add a joint. Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. The very last one, I do right click, and I call it the baby bone. You always have one on the end, and I'm just going to delete that because you don't need it. So we have these five bones, and right now, let me turn off snapping. We don't need it anymore. And let me just show. Let's move these up just a hair so they're centered, or they're pretty close. And if I take any of these and I select it, and let's go to this one. Let's go one over. There we go. And I do this, nothing happens. So in order to get the bones to influence the object, you have to do what's called skinning. So we go back to the box, and we add a modifier that's called skin. And go find it. There it is. And then we want to add the bones, and we're going to add all the bones in the scene. And then if I go back and I go to select this bone and I move it, it's going to select all of those. And if I go to the next one and select it as well, we'll get the same thing. So it's actually what it's doing is it's doing, you can get soft attachments, rigid attachments. Basically all the vertices of this shape are basically, if you think about it, parented to that bone. Bones don't render if I go to render, but the objects exist there as a way to animate and how characters are made. So we get that set up. We got the bones. We got everything else. The one thing we need to do is assign the material again, so we can actually see it. So compact material. I can use the same material again, just that default, as long as it has the map. And now I can just do a Control A, select everything, and do export selected. Now this time we can't do the ASE because the ASE doesn't export the bones. So now we want to use the FBX, and I will just call this bridge FBX, hit save. And when you go to do this, you're going to have some options as well. Now I already have these defined, but if we go back to the default, include, they have turbo smoothing on, you don't need that, convert dummy. Preserve edge orientation, I'm not sure, I usually just leave it alone. But what we want to do is we want to export the smoothing groups, which is how the geometry, tangents, and binormals. And triangulate is kind of yes or no, but if you have basically polygon that has more than 4 sides, so it's not a triangle or quad, which is basically a square face, you can have import issues. And then once we set that up, hit OK, and it'll digest it, and it's out. And now we can go back to Max, and we'll open our content browser. And let's see, we want to use the physics demo package. Okay, import, and let's go find the FBX. Open. You can just say yes to everything. Once again, we can put a materials folder or what have you. Bring it in. And now you can see it has it now. It automatically created a material as well. And this is basically an animation set editor, which is different because it's for basically objects that have geometry assigned or bones assigned to it. And I can actually go in and pull up the, well, actually those are the arms. Let's bring in the Iron Goddard male. You can see him. And what you can do is you can actually come in and load up different animations. So I can have them do something like that and hit play. So that's really what this is controlled for. We're obviously not hooking up any animation steps, and morphing is for things like talking. So we're going to go back to the bridge and set it up. And the only thing we need to worry about here, so if we go, you'll see there's an option for material, and it creates a default material, so there's something hooked up. I could go back and I'll just grab the other material that we used before, environment, materials, go find that grid right there, and load that up. And now we've got a new material on it. And that's all we need to do in this editor, so we can just close it out. Now the one thing is, and I've gone on and I haven't been able to find any information, there's no way to update the snapshot. So unfortunately, when you export, you are stuck with your default image. And to my knowledge, there's no way you can actually change it or update it. So I haven't been able to find it. If someone finds it, please let me know. Now this material, pretty well done with. We're just going to leave it there for the time being, and we'll actually play around with it a little later. So we have the bridge, and then what we need to do is we need to create the physics asset, which is the thing that assigns all the boxes, the rigid bodies, to the bones. So I'll right click and do create new physics asset, and I can do the same thing, just default, and you can just say yes. Now it's going to create boxes. If you want different things, you can change it depending on your shape. And what we get is now we have the bridge, and the controls are slightly different on this than they are for the other viewports. And if I hit play and turn on the simulator, it sees plunk. First thing it does, it just falls to the ground. So that's pretty lame at this point. Now each one of the bones, or each one of the objects, is represented by the geometry. And if I go to the first bone, there's different rigid bodies set up, and I'm going to say fixed. And then I'm going to go to bone 5 as well, and I'm going to say fix. And now when I go hit play, these basically say, and the other ones kind of move around. Now this is bouncing up and down, and it's going straight. The one thing that can happen, and you'd have to bring it into the scene to actually do this, is these can actually rotate sideways. They call that twisting. So to keep them from actually spinning back and forth, actually, why don't we just bring it in the scene? It would probably be easier. So let's do File, Save. And let's drag it into the scene. And I'm not even going to do anything exciting with it at this point. So let's move it up a little. Go from here. And let's see what happens. Shoot it. Okay, see it wakes up, and you see how it jiggles back and forth. Now the collision's off. So you see how this spins around. So this isn't very helpful. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the physics assets, and I'll select, now this isn't based on the shapes, this is actually based on what are the constraints. So I'll select bone, and you can see this one doesn't move anywhere. So what I want to do is I'll change to editing the constraints as opposed to the rigid body shapes, and under angular properties for these bones, which I already have open, I want to turn off or limit the twist. And basically, because the twist limit angle is 0, it doesn't move at all. You can see you can do stiffness and stuff, and now do the same thing with this bone, and the same thing with twist limit, that bone. And then 5 we already have taken care of. And now if I play, we're going to get it to go down, but it's not going to rotate. Now the other thing you can do, which is kind of neat with this, is there's also options that you can take any joint, and if you go down a little further, you'll see there's an angular break threshold, so you can actually make objects so that if there's a certain amount of force, they break. And I'm just going to knock this down to 5, which is pretty extreme, I mean minimal, and basically that's the amount of force, or the threshold it needs to actually break. So we'll exit out, and I got to make sure that I save my update, if not I won't see it. And I'm going to take the box, and I'm just going to place the box over this. And now what will happen is when we turn it on, the box will fall. So we'll do play from here. And there we go. And we see it breaks. But you can see now we have the bridge, and it's set up. And at this point, I can walk through it, and that's because there's some other settings for this physics object. S4 skeletal mesh blocks pawns, and you want to turn on in the beginning, set yes. And you can see its collision type is set to only block as opposed to block all. Now if I do play from here, let's see what happens. Okay, it's still not but now I can't go through it, and let's see if I can actually, it's a little too, okay, there we go. Down, move it, etc. So at any rate, you can see there's a good control that you can do with that, but a lot of fun for doing it. You don't want to do too many objects because obviously it'll cause issues with your physics engine, but you can kind of see what's happening with that. So that's the scene is done for that. So let's go in and let's now make a flag or do some cloth. So I'm going to do new again, save changes now, and I'm going to draw this out in the top view. You could probably do this in the front view as well. We're going to have that import image issue again, which isn't the end of the world, but just something to be aware of. So we're going to create a plane this time, and I'm going to make the size of this plane 256 by 256. Oh, let me actually make it first. So I could have done the keyboard entry option. So now we got it made. That was pretty close. 256 tab 256. And then I'm going to center this. So if you right click, I can make the center of it at 0, 0. Just makes it easier and cleaner. When we go to import, usually I center it or I'll make it in the upper left. That's the origin, that's where an object rotates from. Now the length segments is basically the number of subdivisions in the object. Let me just turn it on here so you can see it. Oh, come on. There we go, edge face. Let's go back and select this object. It's a little faint, but there's lines there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply increase the line segments to 10 by 10 and assign the material. Come back to material, to same old material again. Now we need to add the bones, and that's the next element that we need. Now the bones are pretty simple for this one. I'll actually just maximize this viewport. So we're going to do create system bones IK, and I'm just going to click near the top in the middle, and I'm going to click again and click the right. Oh, sorry about that. And let's just undo that. So click 1, 2, delete the baby bone. Now we have this. Now the weird thing that happens with this is all we're doing is these are two different bones, and one of the bones is where the fixed vertices are going to be, and the other bone is for the non-fixed items. Okay, so all we need to do is assign these to the different items. So we'll select the plane, and we'll assign a skin modifier to it. There we go. And then we'll add both the bones. Select. And now what we want to do is we want to change the weighting, or what's called the weighting. So let me show you. It's easier actually in some ways just to show you visually. So what this is saying is any of the vertices that are assigned with this bone that are red are influenced by 100%. And then anything assigned to this one, the other bone isn't. So if I get out of this mode, and I just go to select the bone, if I can get it, and hit rotate, and distort it, you can see how it's moving those, but it's not moving the other ones. So what we want to do is we want to change that association so that the only row of elements or vertices that are assigned to this first bone are the very top. So I can go into Edit Envelope, Vertices, border select the top ones, and border select these, and go in and do Paint Weights and set it to 0, which basically means it has no influence on that at all. Actually, no, we're going to select it. We're going to switch it over to bone 2, and we want to assign these 100% to bone 2. So basically, I change it. So if I do 0, you can see it says selected to bone 1. If I hit 1, it switches over to bone 2. That's all we need to do once you get that. And that tool that I just pulled up is right here. It's the wrench icon, just so you know where it is. That's it. You're done with that. Everything's good to go. You can just border select everything and do export selected, save it as an FBX, so I'll call this flag. Hit save. I already have my settings from the previous one that we exported, so hit OK. It's going to give me some information about just the